So when will courses be open in the UK? This is the big question. You can exercise in a public outdoor space by yourself with the people you live with your support bubble, and with one other person from another household, as long as you stay 2 meters apart and are in a public outdoor space. So why can't you play golf? Parks, benches, countryside accessible walks, forests, public botanical gardens, grounds of a heritage site, and even public playgrounds are still open. So why can't we play golf on a golf course? You can go to a playground, touch all the equipment, ride anything you want that anyone else has been on that day, and yet you can't go to a wide open golf course, play with anyone from your household, never mind someone from another household, staying miles and miles apart. What is going on? Hey guys, welcome to the channel. If you're new here, remember to give this video a like and of course hit that subscribe button. Today we are talking about some news that came out yesterday to do with Boris and the government relaxing kind of restrictions within the UK and when that might happen. Now, earlier in the week there was hopes that maybe there would be a plan to reintroduce golf back into, well, just to allow us to go back out and play golf, basically. If you aren't from the UK, you don't know what's going on. There's a complete lockdown, national lockdown at the moment. Golf courses have had to close in England, and they are still open in Scotland, which I think is even more infuriating for us. But what is actually going on? Why have they had to close? I mean, we just had another national lockdown before Christmas. I have personally played golf 3 times since September. So you're talking almost 6 months ago. I've played golf 3 times in the last 6 months, which is not ideal when I work in the golf industry and my whole job is to create new golf content, which is why I've had to be a bit more creative and stay at home talking to you guys on the camera about golf without actually being able to play golf. It is infuriating. But what is actually going on? Because we had this hope that the government was going to relax restrictions around golf. Within the first national lockdown, golf was the first sport, I believe, to come back. And we were allowed to play with, at my course, we were allowed to play with 2, I think it was a maximum of 2 people, had to be from your household. And, it was great. Even though it had tight restrictions, it was such a welcome relief and just a sense of freedom to be back out on a golf course. Honestly, I can't explain how much it personally helped my physical and mental health through that period. And at the moment, being sat here wondering why we can go for a walk with a friend, one other person from a different household, but why we can't go play golf. I think the most infuriating thing about it is we have no reason or explanation from the government as to why they've made this decision, other than their general blanket statement just to reduce the spread of coronavirus. I personally don't see, if golf had the right restrictions, I don't see how there could possibly be any spread of coronavirus when you're on such a wide open space. There's so few people there. I think this sums it up really well. I was on a dog walk the other day and ran into a couple of people I know from the golf club, and we had a quick chat, and they were saying, obviously we were talking about golf not being allowed, and they were saying, if we were on a golf course, they were stood 2-3 meters apart, and they were saying if we were on a golf course, we'd never be stood this close to each other. And I think that sums it up pretty well. You can go for a walk with someone and you're probably going to be stood a few meters away the whole time. On a golf course, you're probably going to be stood as much as 50-60 meters apart, depending how good golfers you are. But there was an announcement about when golf could come back, and it's pretty terrible news for us as golfers, basically. So basically there was an announcement from Boris about a gradual phased relaxation of COVID lockdown restrictions, which will begin in early March. Now, this is very disappointing because the initial date we were given was the 15th of February. They were going to reevaluate things. We haven't even made it out of January and we're already getting delayed, announcements for the relaxation of these laws. So let me give you some more information about what's going on and when we possibly could see golf return. So let me just read you something first of all. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson has today revealed his plans for a gradual and phased relaxation of coronavirus restrictions in early March, meaning golf courses in England are highly likely to remain closed for at least another 2 months. So that's obviously not good news, but there is probably more even worse news. So basically Boris Johnson has kind of hinted at there might potentially be a relaxation of some restrictions by the end of February, beginning of March, but it doesn't look like golf is going to be the first wave of restrictions to be eased and to be lifted. It looks like the Prime Minister has been saying that their priority is to get schools back in before anything else happens. I can see why this is a priority, but at the same time, I also think you're sending, kids need an education, kids need to go to school, but also at the moment, schools are going to be one of the highest, I don't know how to phrase this, the most likely places to spread the disease. In the UK, back in September, we saw a huge spike in numbers rising when schools and universities went back, and then we had a national lockdown a couple months later and they didn't close schools or universities. I have no idea how that makes sense. Maybe some of you can explain it to me, but I'd love to understand that. And yet we have sports like golf closed, which I think we'll get on to why I feel it is so important that golf should be open. Obviously I'm slightly biased, but I do genuinely feel that golf should be open, and I will explain that. But let's first get through this. So Boris Johnson said, "We hope it will be safe to begin the reopening of schools from the 8th of March with other economic and social restrictions being removed." So basically the reopening of golf courses in England, Wales and Northern Ireland is probably not going to happen as soon as that. It will probably be after that. It seems that the government doesn't really care about golf or the lifting of restrictions of it. They have more important things. Golf courses in Scotland, of course, are open with obviously restrictions in place, which I think is just another frustration for us all when the Scottish government seems to be making a lot better decisions than our own government. It's kind of infuriating. So when will courses be open in the UK? This is the big question. Many people in the golf industry are thinking that they will be shut until at least the middle of March, possibly the beginning of April, which would be kind of in line with the start of the Masters in early April. Obviously, at the moment, fishing is allowed in the UK. I have no issue with fishing being allowed. I think that's perfectly fine, but I just don't understand why fishing can be allowed, but golf couldn't. So, that's up for debate, I guess. There are other factors, obviously, that are influencing their decision, which include, the rise in deaths and hospitalization, and obviously the spread of the vaccine as well, which is very important. So, yeah, numbers are coming down, but it looks like we won't have any golf returning anytime soon, which is unfortunate, by middle of March to beginning of April. I personally feel that golf should be open. Why is that? Because it's not just because I feel golf is a safe place. I do feel, I think anyone you've spoken to on a golf course, as long as it was run correctly with the correct rules and everyone was obeying those rules, I've never heard anyone, say they weren't comfortable when golf did come back. Also, there are other reasons why I think golf needs to return. I think exercise in general is so important for people's physical and mental health. It is such a necessary part of keeping yourself fit and healthy. And honestly, I think it's probably underestimated how important exercise is in the factors of mental health as well. And this is probably the biggest deterioration. This social isolation for a lot of people is really deteriorating their mental health. So I feel like golf, and this doesn't just go for golf, but exercise in general, for a lot of people would be just unbelievably valuable to their physical and mental health, which, can actually also help with coronavirus as well, because if you're physically fitter, even if you get the disease, you're far less likely to be seriously affected by it. Those are my personal opinions on kind of why golf should be allowed. It is very frustrating. There was some other information that apparently England Golf, who is obviously the governing body of golf within the UK or within England, basically the government told them that they would be consulted on how golf could remain open and that golf wouldn't be affected by any more national lockdowns, and they would be consulted so that safety measures could be put in place. Apparently this never happened. Apparently the government basically went and made these decisions without them, with kind of no consultation, no thoughts given, no explanation given. And I think that's the most, in a lot of ways, that's the most infuriating part of it. When someone makes a decision, that's fine. You can kind of accept that decision as long as there are valid reasons given for that decision. But when someone makes a decision that doesn't seem to have any logic behind it and then refuses to give any answers as to why it's happened, that's when things become frustrating, definitely, for me personally. And if you've ever seen politicians answer a question, you never get a straight answer. You know, politicians have been asked directly why golf is closed. We have, you know, the only answer they've given is that to help reduce the spread of coronavirus, which is a perfectly valid reason, but at the same time, it just doesn't really answer the question. It doesn't really answer, you know, why golf couldn't remain open safely with the right social restrictions. Even if you said, golfers, you have to go out and play on your own. You have to only play with people from your household. You can't even play with someone from another household. I don't understand why that couldn't happen. I think it's a massive shame. It's personally affected me mentally and physically with the lack of, I guess, coping mechanisms, really. It's not easy at the moment. I personally live alone and work from home, and, you know, don't get a huge amount of, even before lockdown, even before COVID, I probably didn't get a huge amount of socialization in my day-to-day life. Now we're in a national lockdown and complete isolation and golf is closed. That has been driven to the absolute max. So it's infuriating, to say the least. I wish we could just get an answer, would be nice. That won't happen, and the last thing that would ever happen is for the government to change its mind or admit that they were ever wrong. So we just have to be patient, unfortunately, and wait for the safe return of golf in coming months. At least the weather will be a bit warmer when we are able to get back out onto the golf course, and yeah. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. It's not been the most interesting. It's infuriating in a lot of ways. I hope you guys, you know, let me know, comment down below. Do you feel the same? Do you feel golf should be closed? Do you feel it should be open? I'd love to know. Yeah, it's not a video I really wanted to make, but at the same time I wanted to give you guys as much information as possible on when golf could come back, and yeah, sorry for the bad news. Remember guys, like this video, subscribe to my channel. I've got a bunch more content coming out in the coming days and weeks, so I hope I can, in part, keep you guys entertained at home during this lockdown and, you know, all around the world as well. So, see you in the next one, guys. Remember, as always, grip it and rip it.